Hi everyone, welcome to Python Osmosis, episode 10, the screencast that gives you a tiny, digestible piece of Python. I'm Ryan Shea, and in this episode we'll be talking about more on defining functions, keyword arguments. So when you call a function, you can actually use not just default values, not just strictly defined values, but you can also use what's called keyword arguments. So let's take a look. We're going to create a definition called parrot. Hopefully everyone has seen the Monty Python Cheese Shops sketch, because this is going to reference that a lot. Go check on YouTube if you haven't. So voltage is a required argument. State has a default value of a stiff. Action defaults to voom. And the default bird type is a Norwegian blue. Okay. So all this is going to do is print out some of that sketch. Print this parrot wouldn't, what won't it do? Action, in this case voom, print if you put, oops, don't want to mix and match my voltage. Basically, this is going to let us morph the sketch here. Voltage doesn't have a default value, so. Lovely plumage. The type Norwegian blue. Its state, we're going to give that and shouldn't mix and match, and exclamation point. So this is our entire definition here, and now we're going to get to the keyword arguments. So of course we can just simply call this by saying parrot and passing it the only required value here that doesn't have a default, 1000, give 1000 volts, and it says this parrot went voom if, apparently I made a typo, if you put 1000 volts through it. Lovely plumage, the Norwegian blue, it's a stiff. Okay, so we can actually call this a few other ways, and this is where we're getting into the keyword arguments. Voltage equals 5.0. Notice I don't have to just do an integer there, that is a float, and I'm going to say dead. Now I'm not actually specifying what that is going into, so state is the second value right over here. State is the second thing for that definition, and so dead would become the state. Voltage I specified by saying voltage equals 5.0. Okay, so it knows that and that is a keyword argument. Notice what was raised there. Non-keyword argument after keyword argument. So I can't do that. But I can do state equals dead. And yep, that works. So you really shouldn't mix and match keyword arguments and non-keyword arguments. So let's try putting this in another way. So let's call parrot, and we're going to say action equals voom, and voltage equals a bunch of zeros on there. So even though voltage comes first in our arguments up here, voltage, state, action, type, I'm going to say action first, then I'm going to say voltage, and because I'm using all keyword arguments here, it knows exactly what I meant for each value. And it does, it works fine. So I can do a keyword argument after a non-keyword argument, but I can't do what I tried before, which is a keyword argument and then a non-keyword argument, if that makes sense. So if I switch this around and I said 5 and then said state equals dead, that will work, but not the other way around. So we've seen one way that's incorrect. Here's a couple more. You need a voltage, so if I do just parrot, it says, hey, parrot takes at least one argument, but 0 were given. So it needed voltage, I didn't give it to it. We've seen the non-keyword argument after keyword argument. Let's try 110 volts, and then what happens if I then say a keyword argument, voltage equals 220? Python was smart. It knew that the first argument, the positional argument, 110, was for voltage, and then I said a second time, voltage equals 220. That doesn't override the first value, it actually just yells at me. It raises a type error that it got multiple values for the keyword argument voltage. And then if I specify something that doesn't exist with a keyword argument, actor equals John Cleese, it says, hey, I don't know what an actor is. Actor wasn't a value that it expected. So just remember that your positional arguments followed by keyword arguments, just remember that and you'll be good. So let's make a new definition here of function, and the only thing you need to send into it is a, and remember pass, which does nothing. And let's do function, and we're going to send two things into that. 0, a equals 0. And so what do we expect this to do? It's going to yell at us. We gave it two values where it was expecting 1. And first we did a positional, then we followed it with a keyword. That's a no-no. So there's actually another way yet that you can send arguments into a definition. And there's sort of a special way of putting a keyword argument. Let me show you an example here. Create a definition called cheese shop, and you do have to specify a kind of cheese, and I'm going to put in two special little notations here. Arguments and keywords. What arguments is going to do is take any overloaded positional arguments I pass and put that into a tuple called arguments. And keywords is going to create the keywords dictionary that puts any keyword arguments into that dictionary. And let's take a look. So print, let's do double quotes here. Do you have any kind, Limburger, or whatever? Okay. Print. We're all out of whatever kind you say, cheddar. Now, here's where we'll dig a little bit deeper into arguments. Remember, you can go through a list like this. This is a tuple, but it's a type of list. For arg in arguments, print out what that argument is. And then we're going to make a nice little line here. Multiply that dash times 40, just make it a line 40 dashes wide. And keys equals keywords dot keys. Okay, the keys method on the dictionary type, keywords is a dictionary, keys returns the keys of the dictionary. And that actually is a list, which will be returned in the object keys. So we're going to do keys, which is, like we said, a list dot sort. Sort is the sort method, which will rearrange those keys from the dictionary into a sorted order. And then we'll loop on through those for KW in keys, print that keyword, followed by a colon, followed by the actual value. Keywords, square bracket, KW. That's going to print the value. Okay, so that's our whole definition, and you can call this in a number of ways, but let's look at an example. Cheese shop, open that up, and we'll say Limburger is, that's going to correspond with kind here. Then we'll say, we can put in just about anything here. It's very runny, sir. It's very runny, sir. Runny. I can put whatever number of arguments I want here. Notice I'm not doing keyword arguments. I'm just sending positional arguments through, and that's going to go in the star arguments. It's going to go into that arguments tuple. And then following that, you saw we had the star keywords. Now when I put in keyword arguments here, like shopkeeper equals Michael Palin, client equals. Now you don't have to have a space around the equal sign either. Client equals John Cleese. Sketch equals cheese shop sketch. Okay, close that off, and let's see what happens. Does it do what we think? All the positional arguments will go into arguments and get printed out. All of the keyword arguments will go into keywords and get sorted, then printed out. So we see it came out just as we expected. Do you have any Limburger? I'm sorry, roll out of Limburger. It's very runny, runny. And then there's our dotted line and our keyword arguments. That's all for now. This screencast is directly inspired by the official Python tutorial by Guido van Rossum at python.org.